Hey, you guys, you good? How's everyone? Yeah? Sweet. I'm in a strange stage of my life at the moment. I had a very contemplative moment a few weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I had a moment that made me question my whole life, question the whole world that I live in. This is what happened to me, right? 3 weeks ago, I was sitting on a hill in country Victoria, and it was 7 o'clock at night, right? Maybe 7:30 at night. It was dark, right? Absolutely dark. Nighttime, right? If someone had come over to me at that point and been like, hey, mate, is this nighttime? I would have been like, yes, definitely. This is definitely called nighttime. If someone else had come over just after him and been like, hey, mate, is this dusk? I would have been like, no, this is just after dusk. This is called nighttime. Who are you? Do you know that other guy? What are both of you doing here? You're interrupting my tranquil moment. Anyway, so it was definitely nighttime, right? I'm sitting there on the hill. All of a sudden, I hear a rooster doing the rooster noise. What the fuck? What's happened? It made me question everything. I think, at this point, we've just cooked it as humans. I think we've cooked this planet so badly that everyone is just so confused. Everyone's so disorientated. No one knows what's going on. Like, Trump's president, Tasmania's on fire, the Great Barrier Reef's dead, The Bachelor's the highest rated show on Australian TV, closely followed by The Big Bang Theory, and roosters are just like, where the fuck are we? What time is it? When do we do the thing? When do we do the noise, bro? I don't know, man. Iggy Azalea is currently considered to be a successful musician, so I have no fucking idea when we make the noise. Subway restaurants are one of the biggest corporations in the world. They have more money than any of us in the rooster community could ever comprehend. But if you go into Subway, buy a sub, and ask them to fill up your water bottle with tap water, they will tell you that it's a Subway policy that they can't fill up your water, but you're more than welcome to buy a bottle of spring water for $3.80. So fucking morning, night, who gives a shit, bro? Cock-a-doodle-doo. Everything's fried. Everything's going weird. I had to question myself because there was two of them doing it, right? They're both making the noise. I was like, maybe I'm the weird one. Maybe it's not a morning thing. I had to really think about it. I thought back and I was like, no, I definitely know it's a morning thing because of a story that I heard as a kid. I remember, you know how it's a really famous story. Everyone's heard it. It's about the Beatles. You know the famous story about the Beatles and the rooster? You know the band The Beatles? There's that famous... A lot of blank looks, but I'll tell the story and I think you'll all be like, oh, that famous story about the Beatles. The Beatles, right, when they were first coming up, they were on Paul's farm just outside Liverpool and they were sitting on top of the roof of his shed and it was 5 a.m. They'd been tripping on acid all night long. Classic Beatles sort of behaviour. They're sitting there, right, 5 a.m. and all that they wanted was the sun to come up. They just wanted the sun to come up so they could have some visuals and stop being so introspective with their trip. And they're sitting there, 5 a.m, and the sun apparently just started creeping over the horizon. And apparently the rooster on the farm starts doing the noise, cock-a-doodle-doo. Apparently Paul, he looked to his left, he looked to John, and he said, here comes the sun. And John looked back at him, and John wanted to sort of imitate the rooster noise. He wanted to be like, cock-a-doodle-doo. But he was so fried on acid, it just kind of came out as doo-doo-doo-doo. And then Ringo was sitting next to them. And I don't know if you know much about Ringo Starr, but he doesn't handle acid well. And they'd said to him, they were like, man, do half a tab, do a quarter tab. You don't want to muck around with acid. He'd done 2 tabs that night. He was freaking out. George was sitting next to him trying to calm him down. So George looks to Ringo and George goes, it's all right. And then Ringo, one of the things that Ringo does when he's freaking out on acid, he'll comment on his surroundings to make himself feel more safe. And they had an esky full of beers with them on the roof. So he looked at that and he said, I feel that ice is slowly melting. It seems like years since it's been here because acid alters your perception of time. And isn't that crazy? Apparently that's how they wrote Hey Jude, which is fucking insane. How weird's that? I love music. I like old music. I like the Beatles. I don't like a lot of new music. There's a lot of new music that really pisses me off with their choice of lyrics. There's one song, I'm sure you all know it. It's called Happy by Pharrell Williams. Nothing makes me more unhappy than that song. What I hate about it, I hate the lyrics. I hate how he goes, clap along if you feel that happiness is a truth. Clap along if you feel that happiness is a truth. That's just a convoluted version of, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. That's plagiarism, bro. I've been to uni, I know plagiarism. I've done a lot of plagiarism, I know what it is. I dropped out of university about a year ago because I was fed up with the bureaucracy at uni. That was the thing that really annoyed me. I didn't mind the work, I didn't mind the classes. I hated the bureaucracy, I hated all the admin sort of shit. If at uni, anytime I had to change something around in my course, change a class, change my timetable, the uni just overcomplicated that whole process. They made it so much more complicated than it needed to be. I'll describe it, but I'll use a metaphor, right? It'll be easier to use a metaphor. So let's pretend, right, that I've got a basket full of apples and I need to show those apples to my course coordinator. That's like my task. I just want to walk into the uni, be like, hey, look at these apples, and she'll be like, oh, that's great that you've got those apples, right? So I go in, I've got my apples, I go into like the reception part of the uni, walk in there, there's a woman behind the desk called Karen, she looks really nice, you're like, hey Karen, how are you? I just have to show this basket full of apples to my course coordinator. And she kind of frowns at you and she's like, that's a pretty strange request. And you're like, no Karen, it's not a real request, it's a metaphor. I'm using a metaphor as part of the joke, because it'll be easier than using a real thing. And then she frowns at you more and she's like, what are you talking about? I can't conceptualize that in my brain. And you're like, no, Karen, I wouldn't expect you to be able to conceptualise that in your brain because you don't technically have a brain. You're just a part of my brain that I've made up for this joke. You don't exist outside of this joke. I don't really understand why you're questioning me on this when you're a part of me, Karen. And then she starts breaking down. She starts crying. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've got a husband. I've got a mortgage. How's this possible? And you're like, sorry, Karen, I must have added those things in subconsciously to give depth to your character, but none of it's real. You don't exist, mate. And she looks pretty upset, but she kind of puts on a brave face and she's like, all right, well, I guess we should just do the joke then. Should we just do the joke? And you're like, yeah, Karen, that's kind of what we're here for. I just have to show this basket full of apples to my course coordinator. And she's like, oh, all right, I know what I'm supposed to say. Go to the library and they'll help you out there. So you go to the library, they don't know what to do with the apples. They send you to student services, they send you somewhere else. You get pinballed around to 8 different faculties. 3 weeks later, you've gotten nowhere. You're so fed up, you end up storming into the Vice-Chancellor's office with your basket full of rotten apples. And you're so angry that the only thing that you can yell across the room is, no wonder there's so many fucking mass shootings at universities. Yeah, so you yell that out. And then Karen pops up from behind the desk. She was hiding there the whole time. You didn't realise. She pops up and she goes, are you happy? Are you happy, mate? You just spent this whole time telling this weird, elaborate story, all so that you could say one joke about a pretty sensitive topic that's already been handled by way better comedians than you. Are you happy? And you say, no, Karen, of course I'm not fucking happy. The fact that you're a part of my brain and you're questioning my joke shows that I'm not very confident right now. I'm not feeling good. And you storm out of there and you run away. You run to the tram stop. You sit down at the tram stop. You're shaking uncontrollably. You feel like shit. You look to your left and Karen's followed you. She sits down next to you. She puts her hand on your leg and she goes, hey, man, I get it. We've both had a rough few weeks. I found out I don't exist. You found out that you've written a pretty average joke. We're both having a rough time. And you lock eyes with Karen and you're not proud of it, but you start kissing Karen. And it's incredible. It's such a good kiss. The chemistry could not be better. She's a great kisser. She's touching the back of your neck. It's beautiful. It's raining. It's romantic. But then the gravity of what you're doing starts to sink in and you realise this is wrong. I can't do this. So you push her away and you say, no, Karen, I can't do this anymore. And you run and jump on the next tram. And you run to the back of that tram and stick your head against the tram window. And as the tram pulls away from the station, you stare back at Karen and you see her figure disintegrate into thin air as a single tear rolls down your face. So yeah, I just hate the whole uni process. It's overcomplicated. The bureaucracy is insane. I got sidetracked there. I'll tell you a couple more things about music and then I'll get out of here. There's other songs. I really get annoyed by the choice of lyrics in song. There was a big song that came out about a year ago. It was called Ugly Heart. And this song was about a dude who was really good looking, but he wasn't a good person. One thing that he did have, though, he had a really, really beautiful smile, right? And the chorus of this song, it went, you're so pretty, your face is a work of art. Your smile's so pretty it could light up New York City after dark. Of all the cities to choose for that lyric, you choose the one place that's regularly referred to as the city that never sleeps. It's notorious. New York is one of the most lit up places on earth. No one's bumping into shit in Times Square. It's definitely adequately lit. Like if your smile can light up New York after dark, to be honest, I'm not that impressed by that smile. If your smile could light up Geelong after dark, I'd write a song about it. Grenade by Bruno Mars? What the fuck? Did anyone listen to the lyrics of that song? Jesus Christ. I thought that song was like a fun love song. I heard it a few times. I didn't listen to the lyrics. I was like, wow, this is a nice, poppy, happy love song. If you listen to the lyrics of Grenade, that is the inner workings of a controlling, suicidal maniac. I'd catch a grenade for ya. Throw my hand on a blade for ya. I'd jump in front of a train for ya. I would go through all this pain. Take a bullet straight to my brain. Yes, I would die for you, babe. But you won't do the same. I reckon it's fair enough she won't do the same. She should dump you, bro. Thanks heaps, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good one.